Hey, what is up, guys? It is Nathan with Bark Life. Today we're going to talk a little bit more about the 2jz GE motor. So I had a lot of different people asking about it, and a lot of people I think that aren't terribly familiar with the motor. What is it? Where did it come from? Why is it important to you? I mean, that is probably one of the most thrown around engine codes on the internet. It's right there with the LS and the Cummins. Why? And we'll not forget the Barra. You Barra guys are sensitive. Barra. Named it. It's there. It's in the running. Anyways, the 2jz, what exactly is it and why is it brought up all the time? Well, the first thing for me, the reason why I made it the primary platform I worked on is because the 2jz came in a lot of the cars I love. sc300 being one of them. The non-turbo Supra also came in the non-turbo version. So the Mark IV Supra, non-turbo, also got the same motor. And we've already discussed the differences between the GTE and the GE motor. And I could post a video on that. At the end of the video, I'll put that as the video you can click. And also at the end of the video, I have a request for you guys. So please stay tuned to the end so that you guys can see what my request is. Anyways, so the GE is a motor that comes in two variants in the United States. We have both variable valve timing and non. The way you tell the difference, first of all, is 96.5 and 97 on the gs300 as well as IS, obviously newer because they were made newer, and then the sc300. They all came in 96.5 and 97. All of them are 97, are VVTI. And the only reason this really matters, VVTI is great for making power, especially when you get a standalone, that sort of thing. It gives you more ability to control. That one gear has the timing that you can adjust. And it's great. There's nothing wrong with it. The issue came in the bottom end. So we did discuss this in the last video, if you already caught that. But basically, the 2jz came in those two variants. The VVTI, the threshold for power is a little bit lower because it has weaker rods and pistons. Easily overcome, but what is the reason why everybody wants to, and you can still make good power? I mean, realistically, let's talk about this. You take a VVTI out of an IS, GS, SC, any of those. You take those and then you over double their factory crank horsepower. So typical from what I've seen on dynos is between 170 and 200 is kind of where they sit at the wheels, at the rear wheels. So that's at the rear wheels from the factory, even with an automatic, because you have powertrain loss. They're like 245 horsepower, 240, 235, whatever, depending on the rendition of the year. And we're talking all USDM stuff. We're not talking about any of the weird overseas silliness. We're talking about just the US versions. Those are still run-of-the-mill, weakest one you can get. You can more than double your factory horsepower. More than double your factory horsepower. And that's weak. That's terrible. It's great. It's amazing. They're amazing platforms. So over 400 horsepower on stock internals. Several people, there's people that have pushed them up to 550, 600. That's up to you. That's wherever your tuner's comfortable, where yours comfortable. You're going to usually end up running into transmission problems before that. But why do we pick it? Why is the 2jz so good? It's amazing. It solves all the world's problems. Why is the JZ so good? First thing, JZs flow really well. Those heads, the valves, the entire cylinder head is super free flowing. You have a nice direct port. You can, if you look through the ports, you can see straight down in there. It's just nice, smooth, good flowing heads from the factory. And that goes a long ways. That's a lot of hindrance for a lot of motors right off the bat. Is you need to open up the head porting, you need to do this. And when you're going for extreme builds on the Supra, you still do that to some degree, but it's a very small percentage of the conversation when you're making power on a JZ. You just take it for granted that head's going to flow really well out of the box. So you can make good power numbers with very little work. A lot of the times, most motors you're talking, oh, I need to go, till 2 millimeter, and I need to redo the porting on the head, and I need to build up the quench zone, and all these other things that on the JZ are just kind of a given. You just get it. It's a freebie. It's included. It's there. The cams aren't bad. The flow is great. So cylinder head, number one reason why, and I'm going to try to approach this as a non-fanboy. I'm not going to lie. I love the JZ platform. The biggest thing I love is you can go get a GE for, $500 from the junkyard. Yeah, there's people trying to inflate the numbers, but there's still enough of them out there. You can still get a fairly good deal on a JZ, GE, and make good power out of it, and reliably. But okay, so first thing is the cylinder head. The next thing, cast iron block. Why is that important? You don't get that block flex and the craziness of the sleeves flexing and twisting, because when you're getting to those pressures, I don't know if you ever watched like a bass video where people got the bass going. If you look at that metal, the whole chassis, you know what I'm saying? That's important that head is cast iron, or that block is cast iron. It's a big old beefy heavy cast iron block. It weighs a lot, but it's solid. The next factor is a lot of companies, to deal with the heat, soak, and that sort of thing, what they do is they put a set of sleeves and they have what's called an open deck. So you have a block, which is basically a shell with sleeves pressed into it. And then you have a gap between the actual block and the actual sleeve. Toyota didn't do that. Toyota didn't mess around. It's a closed deck, and I'll put a picture up here. Closed deck, so it's a solid chunk of iron. It's iron. It's there. It's solid. It's not no flex. The next thing they did, so third, and probably right there as most important with everything else, they made an inline motor. It's balanced as all heck. You can set a glass of water on top of it. It's not moving. It's V6 counterparts. It's working against each other. You have those cylinders, working against each other. JZ, you have the bank of the front, the bank of the back, and it's balanced so that the rotation is smooth. It's counterbalanced. It's precise. You don't see a JZ unless it's cammed to the moon. You're not seeing them, blah, 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 blah. They're not shaking. There's no, pop the hood on any 90s V6. Set a glass of water. That glass of water is doing this. It's like a paint shaker. Even like a high-end motor, you're talking, it's doing that. The JZ, it's there, man. It's just chill. And that's all inline. All inline. Ford did the same thing. All these other, Chevy did the same thing. They have their inline truck motors. And they're great. They're awesome. They're balanced. They're amazing. But that's the next thing Toyota did right, was that inline motor. The same thing they did with the RB. Same idea as the Skylines. That's the big deal with the JZ. So you have the free-flowing head that's great from the factory, makes good power. You have the block that is cast iron. You have the closed deck. The other factor is Toyota overbuilt them. So when you have a small engine, typically, especially when you're making 200 horsepower, 240 horsepower, 220, again, whatever rendition you want to talk about, you'll get some rod bearings that are, hey, little guys. Toyota made oversized caps. Like their rod bearings, their main bearings, everything's beefy. Built it to have a nice pad of oil. And what that does for you on a narrower space, you can understand that, and I'm assuming you understand basic how an engine works and how, there's a little bead of oil, and that's what actually, your rods and everything, they're right in that bead of oil. Well, if you give it a narrow contact spot and you're cramming a gazillion horsepower through it, what happens is, as the piston's coming down that rod bearing, it squishes the oil out, and then you get metal on metal contact as it's rotating. So you have that rotation that you get from the rod, that's rubbing and pushing the oil out the side, blows it out, and then your metal on metal. And then you wear out your rod bearing, and you get that clack, 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 clack. And you guys heard it on the MR2. You guys got to hear what happens on the MR2. So that's a big deal. That is a big deal. So between those four things, you have, and then, of course, Toyota over-engineered. The JZ, they nailed it. Those head gaskets, the head design, here, 1 second. The way they designed the head gasket, we're getting in here. So here is a JZ. This is a multi-layer head gasket here. And if you look, that's all cast iron. So the head is right here. That's the block. So you have that much meat holding your cylinder together. I mean, I am 6'4", I have sausage fingers. It's beefy. It's thick. That block is thick. Between cylinders, you have a nice gap there of metal. So it's not like some of those motors you get in there and you're talking between cylinders is this little itsy bitsy tiny space. This is what? I don't even know. Whatever. You get the point. The block does not flex like a traditional open deck block would. Like when you're doing the Honda thing, a lot of the motors are open deck. You got those B series and they got that open deck. You put block guards in, you do all these different things, or you just straight up shell out the money for some nice sleeves, some nice thick sleeves that are going to hold the power and not crack. Very uncommon for a JZ to crack. That's why when we're talking on this SC, it's healthy. It's a healthy motor still. 285,000 miles. I'm going to boost it, and hopefully it's not one of those things where I get embarrassed because I need some humility or something. But if I'm conservative with it, I'm confident I'm going to get 10 to 20,000 miles of boosting it in events and having fun with it. Transmission, I'm not so optimistic, but the engine, I'm optimistic. I'm really optimistic that it can make power. So we have that head design, the block design, and then the internals they used were solid. They used good rods, good quality pistons, good cams. Everything they did was really well engineered. So yeah, guys, in summary, basically what I'm saying is there's no magic thing that made the JZ out of this world amazing and perfect and flawless and all these other things people claim. What I do claim is in its current price point, it is a solid, reliable, stout motor that you can get at an inexpensive price. And there are very few motors that came as well equipped to make power out of the box as the JZ without having to tear into it a bunch. I mean, that's the bottom line. It came with all the right components as it should. It's kind of like back in the day, the 5.0 Mustang. It came with that 4-link suspension and all the things like that where it gave you the option to buy out of the box an option that was good. The JZ is a good option, huge aftermarket. The GEs are so readily available still because it came in so many platforms. That's what makes it special, is its ability to do what it does for the price that it does. And that's why I got into the JZ platform. The last thing I want to talk to you guys about was when you guys have questions, if it's something that's shorter, I love talking back and forth. You guys find me on Facebook Messenger and you guys send me messages. That's awesome. I love it. I love talking with you guys. But if you have a specific question on a motor that was directly related to a video and you want to know more, ask me on the comments down below, because other people are going to have this video or watch this video and probably come up with the same questions you guys had. And so what that means is they get their question answered, because a lot of people won't take the time to find me, message me, seek me out, that sort of thing. And then the other thing is we're building a community here, so I guarantee there's other people that are watching right now that could comment down below and let you know. And if you guys know something, please feel free to comment down below and help another person out. Make sure you know what you're talking about. Try to know what you're talking about, just a little bit. And if you guys have a topic you want me to cover and I know anything about it or know somebody that knows anything about it, ask down below. I'm always up for, what next and that sort of thing. So if you guys liked this video, please like and subscribe down below. Thanks so much. And as always, guys, stay tuned.